In today's expose, we're going to be taking a deep dive into how a seemingly normal New York couple adopted an English speaking mouse instead of an actual child, and then proceeded to give him away. The Littles lived in the littlest house in New York City. They had one son named George. To complete their family, they decided to adopt a second child. So they went down to the New York City orphanage, where, in the midst of all of these children that need good homes, they chose the mouse. From older sources, I was always told that Stuart Little was set at the turn of the century, when Coca-Cola still had its original recipe. But come to find out, my sources were fraudulent. Because not only does Stuart Little not take place at the turn of the century, when, people had little vials in their purses and it was completely legal, the book takes place in the 50s, and the movie takes place in the 90s. We can in fact not blame their choices on being under the influence of alternative hobbies. So why exactly did the Little family choose a mouse over a human child? Digging into a little research from E.B. White himself, Stuart Little was in fact born to his mother rather than adopted. Under the record of his birth, not only was he in fact 2 inches tall, but his weight resembled something of a 3-ounce postage stamp. Which leads me to the very important question. Did she have a full-size placenta? What are the medical logistics here? We're not questioning the fact that he came out looking like a mouse with a tail and a pointed nose and all that, because genetics happen every day. The question is, was he full term and they were expecting a full-size baby with a full-size placenta, or was he premature and they were surprised, or what's the deal here? Is there the possibility that the Littles were so ashamed of their second son that they tried to give him to an orphanage, and then they felt bad about it, so they went back to the orphanage to adopt him and realized it wasn't working out? So then they decided to give him away to the first set of mouse parents that said they were his parents? We didn't check IDs. We didn't call the orphanage until after the fact. And being as they knew mice could speak by this point and were sentient, why didn't they treat the cat the same way? Why do they assume the mice can speak? And in the case of the sequel, a bird, did they not realize that the cat can also speak? Moving along to the sequel, which takes place at least a couple of years after the original, we know that Mrs. Little has given birth to her third baby, a little girl. We know the little girl is between 1 and 2 years old, and that it takes 9 months to make a baby, so we can assume anywhere from 2 to 3 years later. Now, upon my research, your standard house mouse has an average lifespan of about 2 years. So is this even the original Stuart Little? Did they find a fake mouse and give him little clothes? Who's that knocking at the house? Mouse. Doo-doo.